did that. Um, so just kind of want to throw that out there. Just depending on your comfort level with things having been recorded, totally understand um, that we want you to feel comfortable participating so everyone knows that it's on record. Okay. So my name is Sarah Merrick, the Outreach Prevention and Education Specialist at the Counseling Center. I use she, her pronouns, and I have a background in counseling, so mental health counseling. Some ways that I take care of myself or invest in my well-being is really by spending time outside, especially on the warmer days. I know we're in a bit of a cold spell here. For me, also connecting with family. So I'm new to Baltimore relatively, so making sure I keep up those relationships and truly by prioritizing sleep as well. Everyone in my life knows like I'm going to bed early. Together, we're going to kind of talk about things stress and stress management, and then I will hand it over here to Erica.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Lukshin. I'm the Director of Health Promotion and Prevention Education. My pronouns are she, her, and just a little background on myself. I'm also a registered dietitian nutritionist, as well as a board certified health and wellness coach. So I have a lot of experience working with individuals on any of their personal health and wellness goals. I think someone may be unmuted. Okay, there we go. And so some of the ways that I personally take care of my well-being is also just trying to get some movement in during the day, which has been much more challenging when it's freezing outside. So at least some movement in my office. I'm also someone that just really connects with music and find that that really helps, especially with things that I don't like to do, like chores in my house. So pairing something that gives me joy with some activities that must happen is really beneficial for me. And just like Sarah, you don't want to be around me if I get less than 8 hours of sleep. So I'm usually in bed by 10. And later on this presentation, I'm going to be diving into well-being. So both in terms of our personal well-being journey, as well as some of the well-being resources that we have here at Towson.
Excellent. Thanks, Erica. Hopefully we cleared up any of that feedback that we were having. So I just like to start off all the presentations that I give with a little reminder. Erica and I are here. Hopefully you'll get something out of it, but you're the expert on you. You're always going to know yourself, body, your tendencies best. And I really encourage participation. So I know we're on Zoom, which could make it challenging. But please, we'll ask you some questions. Please feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll kind of read those out, see if we can get a little bit of dialogue. I always find with groups, it just makes it more interesting for everyone involved when we can get that going. So hopefully by the end of our presentation, you'll be able to, or you will have reflected on at least 2 ways you're already investing in your well-being. You'll be able to identify 2 resources on campus that support your well-being, and you will have planned 1 well-being action that you can take this week. So just kind of starting from the beginning here, thinking a little bit about what is stress. So stress is actually our body's response to any type of stressor. Stressors are things internally or externally that might cause your body to have this response. So the response is things physiologically, so things happening within your anatomy, your body, or psychologically that come in response to anything in front of you or any stimulus. In general, a little bit of stress is a positive thing, and we can call that eustress. So you might have heard that term before, or maybe it's somewhat new. But in general, it helps us feel motivated to accomplish the things that we want to do. So in terms of what it might look like for you, maybe it looks like gearing up towards maybe giving a speech or a presentation in class, you might feel a bit nervous. It might help you practice or review points ahead of time and things of that nature. In general, stress can be beneficial to your goals and getting things done. Then we're coming up on acute versus chronic. So acute is another word for short term. So when we think of acute stress, we think of what is happening in the short term essentially, and what our image kind of shows is the acute short term response to any stressor. So the things that happen in your body here are activated by your nervous system. Your blood starts pumping faster. Your like cortisol is released from your brain, and your heart rate might start going up. If you've ever had like sweaty palms, maybe that is one way that you respond as well. You can see some of these other things like your breathing might increase, digestion slows, pupils dilate, and things of that nature. And again, this has not necessarily a bad thing, but evolutionarily speaking, this kind of evolved with us being faced with, let's say, a bear in the woods. Evolutionarily, we might go into this acute state of fight or flight, if you've heard of that, freeze or appease, where our body kind of takes over. We're in survival mode. We're just trying to get out of this situation. And this can become problematic in the sense of we're not facing or fighting bears anymore, typically, but we might still have this stress response in our body from some of the other stressors we face. And so going into that chronic piece, chronic is a fancy word for more like long term. So if we're constantly facing um, these different stressors, that is when our body might be doing all of these things, and it's just putting extra pressure essentially on our body's systems that doesn't need to be there, which can feel distressing in a way. Okay. Oops. So this is a great little comic. And I think it makes a lot of sense when we think about it, thinking about kind of starting at the bottom when productivity is low and stress is really low, can kind of think of that as like almost like apathy, like we're not doing anything and we don't really care about it either. Kind of moving up the ladder, it feels like there's a little bit of pressure on it and you're able to accomplish it. And for everybody, it's going to look different. But once you get to a certain point, you're going to get to that second person and feel like I cannot handle this today. And I always like to validate when working with clients, like it makes a lot of sense that things can feel overwhelming in this way. Oftentimes we're feeling stressed because we care about something, it aligns with our values or one of our goals. So in maybe your all's case is like feeling so overwhelmed by extra assignments or things of that nature, might feel like you can't handle it today because it might be impacting your value of education and how you might end up with that experience of those things. So finding that balance is kind of what we're looking for. So again, just kind of shifting gears back to you all, just kind of curious, like how do you know when stress has shown up for you? Or how does that feel kind of in your body? How do you know you're stressed? You can feel free to put it in the chat. I'm not seeing anything, so that's okay. Oh, okay, I see something. Okay. Tends to tap my foot really fast and feeling really on edge with my surroundings. Get migraines, definitely. Okay. Oh, here. Maybe I just didn't wait long enough. Sorry. Read a few more. Okay. Trouble breathing, so kind of noticing that physiologically. Trouble focusing. and really stress going into your phone. So trying to distract yourself, definitely. Um, Hard to get out of bed in the mornings, easily frustrated. Yeah, so feeling irritable, definitely. Decision paralysis. Yeah, so executive functioning is harder. Fidgeting, avoiding stressors. Another person with headaches, avoidance and overthinking, trouble focusing, and itchy. Yeah. Wow. Thank you all so much for taking a moment to just check in with yourselves. I'm seeing low patience and tension, also fidgeting. Yeah, it really sounds like you all have a good sense of what feeling stressed feels like for you, which is not an easy thing to tap into. So we'll kind of switch gears here and kind of put up a lot of different things of ways that stress might show up for you all. I heard in the chat a lot of these things, so recognizing that, kind of thinking, how can we categorize these things? So for some folks, it might feel more physical. I think we especially heard like tension, we heard headaches. So thinking, yeah, it might impact fatigue or energy levels, how much you're sleeping. I also heard some of the behavioral things, so feeling like staying on task is hard or making decisions, things of that nature. Also heard a bit of like avoidance, so maybe that sense of withdrawal. I also heard a little bit of the more short-term psychological impacts as well. I think especially irritability. Um, I think and feeling anxious. I think those were the two biggest ones that I heard. So right, just as the same way that we all have different stressors, we all feel stress differently. Okay. So when we're thinking a bit more about distress, again, that negative piece that feels overwhelming, that comes from feeling overwhelmed by your life's demands, can think of like a few different things or ways that they might impact you. So the first being burnout. If you look up burnout, it will have a lot of different definitions. That's okay. The one that I like to share with folks is no longer being able to cope with your daily stressors. So once stress has built up to a point that you can no longer take on those daily things, you might be feeling that sense of hopelessness and overwhelm that's often associated with burnout. In general, also like to share with folks like if we have underlying or kind of baseline feelings of anxiety, feelings of depression, or we're navigating either of those things clinically, a lot of distress or chronic distress can worsen those things, can also worsen other mental health issues as well. So kind of shifting gears here a little bit, when we're thinking about those stressors, so things like a conflict in the family or maybe getting a last minute like paper, those are stressors that you have to react to that are kind of put in front of you. And so thinking about the stress that is brought on with that is often like we're coping, we're reacting to those stressors, we're navigating that level of stress as it's in front of us. However, there are some ways that we can kind of be proactive so that when we navigate or when a stressor is kind of put on our plate, the reaction maybe isn't 0 to 100, maybe it's 0 to 50. So finding ways that feel supportive for you to take care of yourself is kind of what we're going to shift gears here too. Okay. So again, I'm just going to allow folks to put it in the chat. I'll give you a little more time. I'm sorry about that. So take your time to reflect, but just thinking about ways like how are you currently practicing self-care? And I'll kind of add this as well if self-care is a way that we can be proactive and protecting our sense of well-being that we have. So again, I'll give you some moments to reflect and kind of share in the chat. Seeing some come in. So someone says, I see a few people say exercising, puzzles, spending time with friends, making sure their environment is clean. That's great. A few people are saying things related to eat, so eating healthy or cooking their meals. Wow, y'all are doing well, coming in faster than I can read. I hear listening to music, like staying away from social media, spending time with friends, going for walks. I'm seeing a lot of getting back into hobbies like drawing, practicing self-care by dedicating time to disconnect and reset my mind and body, exercise and skincare, watching good TV show, prioritizing someone else prioritizing sleep like me and Erica. Amazing. Okay, this is great. Yeah. Um, so again, just taking a moment to thank you all for checking in with yourselves in terms of what are ways that you're taking care of yourself there. And so just kind of generally speaking, we're just gonna think about ways to practice self-care. Again, if we're defining self-care as the practice of taking regular action, so consistent action to protect your well-being and your happiness, especially in times of stress. So just kind of thinking about self-care not being a one-time activity, but it's ongoing and it's things that you do that in general are leaving you feeling nourished or calm or at ease, whatever kind of feelings or adjectives feel best for you. So in general, something that I always like to focus on is like the basics, so your basic needs. Often in times of stress, these things can feel harder to attain or harder to um, pay attention to. It's very normal. But so things like getting enough sleep, moving your body, and eating foods that nourish and energize you can help you at least maintain some sort of routine in terms of your body during these higher times of stress. So the second piece, which a lot of folks did mention in the chat as well, so investing in social support. So with that in mind, thinking of the people that you count on, the people that count on you, and just maintaining those relationships um, is really beneficial. A lot of folks also put this as well, but so having fun and playing, this is really important. I think it's hard to not make that like a to-do list item, like have fun on your to-do list, but it might feel a little less genuine that way, but hopefully you all are finding some ways to do that again. Um, so finding meaning and purpose, this can be challenging as you're a student, but finding ways to connect with that, maybe the reason why you're here, what your goals are. It can also be a way to stay connected to your values. So again, I made an assumption earlier, but like assuming that a lot of you are valuing an education, maybe exploring what some of those other values are, could also look like volunteering or potentially being connected with a place of worship. And then lastly, I think some people also might have put it in the chat, but flow activities are basically activities that when you're engaged with them, you don't really notice the time going by. So I'm not sure, but maybe for some people, like drawing or puzzling, these are things that they do. They feel really present with it. And then all of a sudden, it's like an hour's gone by and they haven't really paid attention to the hour going by. But these can be like really beneficial to people's overall well-being. Okay. So on this slide, you're going to see lots of different activities and lots of different ways to manage stress. So spending time with friends, setting some boundaries, spending time with animals, cleaning, organizing was mentioned, sleeping, things of that nature. I think it's important just to note that when we're talking about the difference again between prevention and coping, it can be helpful to just reflect on how you're feeling before and after the activities. So if you feel like you're drowning and you're engaging in an activity and you still feel like you're drowning, or feeling empty afterwards, it might be a sign that you're coping with a stressor that you may know is there or might not realize is there. On the other hand, if like things are feeling okay and you're feeling a sense of kind of ease and calm and you're just engaging with something just because you like doing it, it might be part of that prevention work with which is just as important. Okay, so I'm gonna pass the floor over to Erica now for the second half.
All right. Thank you all so much for your participation and your comments in the chat. It's so nice to, I guess, learn a little bit more about you all through that. Sarah did such a great job just introducing the concept of stress, really like what's even happening in our body, as well as how we can identify stressors. It sounds really obvious, but sometimes we don't acknowledge that we are stressed. We're just going on, we're in school, we're in class, we're in our student groups, we're hanging out with our friends, and we don't even realize like, hey, I haven't been sleeping as well, or I have been more anxious, or I have been more irritable. And so taking moments to acknowledge your stressors helps you recognize, this might be a good time to invest in my self-care. So I think Sarah really helped us kind of put all that together. And so what we're going to do for the remaining of the presentation is talk a little bit more about well-being. And this has kind of been a buzzword. I don't know if you've heard it. I know I say it a lot, but it really can look different for so many people. And it's important to note that when we say well-being is so personal. By definition, we call it a dynamic state, which means that it's constantly changing and evolving. And so it's important to note as we discuss well-being that it's actually really, really personal. And so what you need for your own well-being journey is going to look so different than your friend, your classmate, and your family members. But also that journey can look different for yourself and can constantly evolve from week to week, month to month, year to year. So I am curious, when you hear the word well-being, what kind of comes to your mind if someone asked you to define it or explain it? What were some words that you might use? And again, I'll ask you to take some moment to think about that and maybe share it in the chat if you feel comfortable. Not seeing anything yet. So there we go. Thank you. All right, perfect. So health and the security of it, being content with where I am physically and mentally, making sure that I take care of the dimensions of well-being, balancing all aspects.
Erica might have just stepped away to get a grab of water, so I will just field some of these responses. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I'm seeing like lots of kind of addressing different parts of one's health. So physical, mental, also seeing being like healthy. So like feeling well or feeling good. It's hard to like not use the word in the definition, but again, mentally, physically and emotionally. Did I see somebody say economically too? Maybe I just read emotionally as economically potentially. Yeah, I just see balancing all aspects of health, taking care of the five dimensions. Okay. Yeah, thank you all so much for sharing. It does sound like you all have kind of tapped into what that looks like for you all.
Sorry about that. Hopefully my cough is under control. And then on the next slide, we're going to hit exactly what you guys mentioned, that our well-being is really nuanced and there's lots of different dimensions. When I was little, my mom used to call it different pieces of your pie that would fill you up. And so, you might be doing really well in one area, but maybe another part of your pie or your wellness dimension is feeling a little empty. And when that happens, you might not end up feeling like you're thriving. So even though you might be doing amazing academically and you're touching in with your environmental well-being, your financial well-being, maybe your social cup is feeling a little empty. That might end up weighing on you and making it a little bit challenging for you to feel like you're fully thriving and have all the tools that you need to achieve your full potential. And so we wanted to give everyone a couple of minutes because we don't often have time to reflect on these ideas, but we're going to give everyone maybe like 3 to 5 minutes to look at this different areas of well-being and think about what are some of these areas that you feel like you're succeeding in, or maybe take some time to identify some of the areas that you might need to or want to pay a little bit more attention to. So if you have a pen or a paper, your phone, just take a couple of minutes to do some of this reflection work, and then we can come back as a group and share if we feel comfortable. Mhm. Well, hopefully we've had some time, and I know just 3 to 5 minutes isn't really always adequate time to really reflect on all these dimensions. But if you feel comfortable or wanted to take time to share some areas that you feel like, yeah, I'm doing well here. I'm investing in this space, and maybe even share how you're investing in it. So let's say it's physical. What are some of the things that you're doing that allow you to thrive in this space? I think it could be helpful for all of us to learn a bit more. Right, perfect. So taking advantage of winter break and really investing in seeing friends that you haven't seen in a while, filling up that social cup. Yeah, definitely break. Gives us a nice reprieve from all the demands and being able to take time to invest in some of those areas. So socially with friends again, and then emotionally, just not necessarily feeling all that stress and getting to invest in yourself and not have as much on your plate. All right. And then on the flip side, um, we got some physical work by going to the gym. And I know this one's a little bit more vulnerable, so I totally get if we don't want to share. But if anyone feels comfortable taking time to share what they may have identified as an area that maybe has been lacking or has been a little neglected on purpose or not on purpose, or maybe you didn't even think about this as a dimension that you think could be worthwhile to start focusing a little bit more in. That is very fair. So occupational, knowing that graduation can be around the corner. So wanting to start investing in that process of finding a job after graduation. Absolutely. One more. Okay. So emotional. Yeah, it takes time to do this work and really going a little bit deeper into some of the causes of our emotions. I know over in the counseling center, they have this fantastic wheel of emotions that go be words that you don't even think of using to help categorize emotion. But sometimes being able to really identify how we feel is that first step towards that work. And I love that environmental. So it's how do we just connect with nature? And you might be doing it, but didn't realize you were doing it. So that could be just spending time outside, sitting on a bench and looking at the trees or the sky. That is connecting with nature and your environment. And if that's something you enjoy, taking time to invest in that nature could be helpful. Yeah. And I think whatever it is that we've identified being that's first step is if we don't know where we want to focus our energy on, action is really hard to just come about naturally. So hopefully this was a positive exercise. And it is something that I encourage people to do on a regular basis. Just kind of checking in with this wheel. Where am I investing energy that feels good? I want to keep doing that. And sometimes we can also be investing, I don't want to call it too much energy, but if we only have a certain amount of time and we feel like we're really in one area, a little bit of that is how do we devote some of that time to another area. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about how we can turn some of these thoughts into actions. So how do we go about investing in our well-being? So we took the first step in just acknowledging that there's an importance in taking care of oneself, right? Sarah spent a lot of time talking about self-care and the benefits and how that helps us hopefully take some preventative action to avoid stress, but also gives us skills to cope with stressors that come up, which is, common. We also discussed that our well-being journey is unique, and you can see that we took the same image of the dimensions of well-being and we all had different responses to that because we all are doing different things. And I think sometimes it can be tricky when we see someone else doing things to their well-being. We think we're supposed to be doing that too, but that might just not resonate with us. And just owning that your journey is unique and whatever path you need to feel like you're thriving is what you need. And then I'd say my health coach brain is all about small and realistic goals. So it can feel really overwhelming when we take an entire dimension and think we need to conquer it in a week. That's really not realistic, nor is it practical. So if let's say you were like, it's so cold, I haven't really invested in my physical well-being as much as I want to. Now I'm going to start sleeping 8 hours a day, eating only healthy, and going to the gym every single day a week. That's a great idea, but it's probably going to be really hard to do that because that's a very lofty goal. And then we've set ourselves up for unrealistic expectations, and then we might end up feeling defeated that we couldn't achieve that. So it can be really helpful to just start with a very small and realistic goal. And so that could be maybe taking one of those three. So maybe it's going to be, I want to get to bed an hour earlier, or I want to try to move my body for 10 minutes a day, or I want to try to make sure I have a vegetable on my plate each meal. Those smaller goals that we can know that we can accomplish will help build up our confidence. And then we can build a habit. And once we feel really confident that we accomplished that goal, we can add to it. Another part of that is just scheduling time. And so we can have these wonderful ideas. So we might say, I want to explore environmental well-being. But in order to help it go from an idea to action, we want to first identify the step we want to take and then devote our time. So we know that time is one of our best commodities. So starting slow with I'm going to block out, 20 minutes of my schedule to invest in this activity will be a good way to kind of make sure that you're carving out that special time for your well-being. And then, of course, just being kind to ourselves, as you'll start experiencing again in the next couple of weeks. Quickly, coursework will pile on, social engagements will pile on, all the things that you do for your student groups and organizations. And then we can start feeling bad that we didn't accomplish what we set out to do. And it's important sometimes to be kind to ourselves, give ourselves grace that all we can do is try. Some days are going to be harder than others, but we're just going to keep on going. And I always say self-talk is so important because if we're kind to ourselves, we're probably going to pick up the next day and try again. So the words that we speak to ourselves are just as important as the words that we speak to others. And then, of course, you're not alone. So what I'm going to spend a lot of time is talking about all the resources that are here to help you with this. Because this is not easy work. And I'm sure if you've ever experienced trying to make any kind of personal change, it's really hard. But you're not alone in this process at all. So with all of this in mind, and you can either just reflect on it, if you feel confident sharing it, think about your dimensions of well-being, the areas that you personally talked about wanting to maybe invest a little bit focus. Try to think about the framework of small, realistic, thinking about one small action that you feel pretty confident that you can achieve this week when it comes to your well-being. All right, I'll keep the chat open and I'll read if they come in. If you want to keep it private, I totally understand. But just you can continue to do some of this work either right now or later today. All right, we have writing more. I like that. All right, so now we're going to move on and talk a bit more about some of the resources on campus that are here to support you. And again, remembering that you're not alone. And not only are you not alone, but there's actually an entire subdivision that is devoted to student health and well-being. So that means that there are, I would say, 100 plus individuals here on campus whose purpose and job and passion is to support students' well-being. And what that means is we understand that you come to college for one reason, to, have an academic journey, try to, get a job at the end of this. But college is so much more than that, right? It is an entire experience. It's 4+ years of a transitional time in your life where you're learning and exploring and growing. And so much of what occurs in the classroom is really an impact of what's happening outside the classroom. And that's really where student health and well-being comes in, trying to support everything else in your life that can help you thrive when you walk into the classroom. And so the departments are invested in this journey with you: our campus recreation, the health center, the counseling center, and health promotion. And our goal is just to help students achieve their full potential by giving them the tools that they need and creating an environment and a culture of well-being so that we don't feel like we're alone, that we feel like the university, the people we meet, the environment that we in is supporting this goal. So what I'm going to ask, because right now the next couple of slides, I'm not going to lie, are lists of resources, just to add a little bit of flavor to them, a personality to them. If you feel comfortable, if anyone is engaged in any of these resources on campus and wants to share a little bit of what they've done, I'm hoping that could be helpful. So feel free to throw it in the chat. It could be really loosely based, but if it's something that can help another person make that connection with the resource that benefited you, this would be a great place to put it. So first and foremost, Towson University has the counseling center. What's really cool about our counseling center is that they have what's called the same day appointment. So in the past, right, you would finally recognize that there's an issue that you're managing, you've had a conflict, you had a really hard day, you would call, and then like the first appointment would be in 2 weeks. And then by the time your appointment came, the problem that you originally called for is maybe not the same. And what's really nice is that if you are waking up on Wednesday and you're just having a hard time, and you want to talk to someone, you can make an appointment at the counseling center that day and be connected with the therapist. So again, just wanting you to know that that is a totally free resource. You don't have to go through insurance, and you just get connected with great therapists. They also provide group therapy. And if like you don't want any therapy, you just want a place to relax, they have massage chairs, there's a meditation and mindfulness room. And they also have some online resources. So if you feel more comfortable starting online and virtual, there's Together All and Well Track Boost. So just wanted to let you know that those resources are there. And if you want to learn more, you can go on the Counseling Center website. The Counseling Center also has an entire, I call it what, sub area devoted to alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. So they help support students that are in recovery, and they provide a lot of great information on harm reduction, as well as some e-checks. So if you just aren't curious or you're, trying to figure out where you might be, you can do your own little check-in, and that might give you some guidance on where to start. Then we also have campus recreation over in Burdick Hall. So if you haven't had a chance to go in there, I would say, even if you don't want to exercise, just to go around and see what's available. It's a really great spot. So they do have a state-of-art exercise and equipment. So if that is something that you like, or you're kind of getting into it, anything that you would ever want in a facility is probably in campus rec, and it's really, really nice. If you're not sure how to get started, you can always connect either with personal trainers or even just get a tour and have someone personally walk you around and introduce you to some of the equipment that might be new to you. If equipment isn't your thing, group fitness classes are awesome. And they range from, lower intensity like yoga to really high intensity like those HIIT classes. They also have a pool that's open for free swim and really cool things like stand-up paddle and kayaking. They also have an entire outdoor adventures program. So if you're just like a nature person and want to connect with other nature people, they do really fun trips, or you could just rent gear through Campus Rec. They have the climbing wall. And then if you're looking to get into some sports team, maybe that's something you've done in high school, you want to try it out for the first time, they have intramural sports. So really just offers a lot. And I know that they're also working on developing, coming this semester, some more neurodiverse spaces. So those are spaces on campus and classes that will feel a little bit more inclusive and accessible to all students. So more to come on that. So before we switch to the new slide, anyone who feels comfortable sharing if they've engaged in any of these resources and, if that was something positive for them. Thank you, Joel, for sending that. Yeah, counseling center could be really helpful, especially during overwhelming times. So again, those same day appointments, you feel overwhelmed that day, you could just come in and talk to someone and walk out feeling a lot better. All right. We can move on to the next. Right. And then just as a reminder, we have our health center. So you can come in just even for a basic annual physical. This is something that I do highly recommend, especially if you're upperclassmen and perhaps you haven't been to your pediatrician since high school. Just a good practice to start seeing a doctor once a year just for what they call a checkup. Things happen over a year or two, and it's really nice to be ahead of the game or find out, oh, I'm doing everything great. Let me just keep going. So that could just look like a full physical and then getting your labs checked. I will say at the health center, I have worked with a lot of students who found out that their sugars were high or their blood pressure or their cholesterol. And so if you don't get checked, you don't really know. So that could just be a good practice. If you haven't been to the doctor in a couple of years, take advantage of the health center right here. They also do STI testing, lab services. They have nutrition consultations. They do birth control counseling. It's really just like going to a doctor's office, open Monday through Friday. You can make an appointment online or giving us a call. We also have health promotion, which is the department that I run. And our goal is just to provide a lot of education and connect students with resources on campus that support their well-being. We also work with folks within the community. So we provide free STI testing through Star Trek, and we do HIV and hepatitis C once a month at the Union. We also connect students with free nicotine cessation. So that's something that I personally do. And we give out free nicotine replacement therapy. So that's like patches, gum, lozenges. So if you smoke or vape or use any form of nicotine and are looking to cut back, and if it's not you, it's a friend, let them know that that's a totally free resource. And just like we're doing workshops today, we go around giving workshops on various health and wellness topics. I also wanted to just plug Holly Delagrange, who is a dietitian. She works through Tiger Hospitality and provides free one-to-one nutrition counseling. So if you're looking on tips to eat healthier, you have allergies, you have a new condition, and you want to get some nutrition guidance, you can always connect with Holly. And she also does great programming around campus. So she has cooking classes and just like lots of fun pop-ups. So if anyone has used any of these resources and maybe wants to share, this could be a nice opportunity to do so. Right, for the sake of time, because I only have a couple of minutes, I'm just going to go to the next slide, but feel free to think, put things in as I'm talking. Lastly, some well-being resources that I know some students aren't as familiar with. The Career Center actually has an entire financial well-being area. It's run by Jonas Scheckler, who's awesome. So if you're looking for more financial well-being guidance, which I think we all are, I know I am, he does a lot of great programming. There's also the Which Way program. So that's just a great way to learn more about financial well-being. And for this semester, Jonas has gotten approved to do one-on-one peer-to-peer financial coaching, as well as having many more programming, lunch and learn. So if this is something you want to invest a little time in, I would definitely recommend keeping an eye on the work that he's doing. We also have the Basic Needs Hub. So that's kind of diagonally across from the new College of Health Professions. They run a food share program where students can pick up 10 items for free per week. It's kind of like shopping at the grocery store. They also provide cosmetics, so like shampoos and conditioner, as well as have a closet full of casual clothes. So if you or anyone that you're, friends with or come across that's looking for some more, assistance in terms of food insecurity, Food Share is amazing. They also help connect students to SNAP benefits, which is really a frustrating process to do alone. But if you want that one-to-one guidance, you could be set up with a SNAP peer educator who can walk you through that process. And then lastly, there's SOS, which is Student Outreach and Support, which helps students dealing with financial crisis, academic issues, mental health, and more. And they will just connect you to all the resources that are available. And this is a great form, so you can fill it out for yourself or anyone that you know that you feel like might be in distress. Okay. So just to recap, everyone's well-being journey is unique. And not only is it unique, but it's multidimensional and it's dynamic. And there's lots of dimensions that are going to, come together to help you feel well. We want to be proactive and invest in those self-care qualities. So we want to come up with our solutions before there are problems. And then prevention is the key to success. When we invest in our basic skills, when we do those flow activities, when we do the things that fill up our cup, we're more likely to succeed. And of course, as I've said many times, you're not alone, and we're here to support you on campus. And these are just a few tips. as your student leaders, if you're looking to try to take some of these concepts and bring them into spaces that you curate and have an influence in, here's just a couple of things that you can be doing. So, keeping an eye on the food choices at your student group and organization meetings, trying to include some movement as part of your meeting time. So that could be like a stretch break to start your meeting, trying to encourage praise and getting good quality sleep, even starting check-in meetings with check-ins, so seeing how people are doing, giving them time for some of that self-reflection, asking people, what are you doing for your self-care this weekend? So planting that seed and having people think about it and share it, making sure that there's not just like, going straight to everything that's on the agenda item, but building in fun and laughter. Not everyone at Towson gets to come and sit through these sessions and learn about resources, so you can be a representative. So please feel free to share what you've learned today with your group. And if you ever want to dive deeper into any topic, you can always request a peer education workshop, which I will give you some information on in a slide or two. So you could just take a quick moment to think about what you might want to, include in your semester when you think about your student groups and orgs. And Sarah, we can move on because it's 4 o'clock. And these are just some workshops. So if you are interested in bringing well-being into your space, here's a few that we do. This is the QR code to request a workshop. You can also go on our website. And we also put a lot of really great content on Instagram. So you can follow us at TU_health for well-being tips, some reminders about resources and support, as well as events on campus that support your well-being. And then lastly, once a week, we put out an email that tells you about all the well-being events that are happening that week. So if you want to keep abreast on all those events, you can download this QR code. It's just going to ask for your email address. And then on Mondays of each week, you'll get an email from me or Sarah that's just telling you about what's happening that week. And then you have all the information there in one space instead of trying to like find it all over Instagram. All right. I don't know if we have time. Okay. And then you can feel free to ask any questions and then fill out the evaluation. And we appreciate your time today.
Echoing Erica, thank you all so much for the participation and being here. During that meditation I shared before in the chat once more, if anyone wants to grab it as well.
Hi, if you guys are done, everyone can go back to the uh, main session, but if not, you can have a couple more minutes just checking in.
Yep, we just finished. Everyone's heading back now.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.